The atmosphere in Port Charles shifted the moment a familiar face disappeared without a trace. What started as a quiet day quickly turned into a chain of events that left friends, rivals, and family members searching for answers. Rumors spread rapidly through town, but nobody seemed to know exactly what had happened or who was truly behind it. Obrecht had always been a survivor. Through countless challenges and unexpected twists, she managed to stay one step ahead of danger. But this time felt different. This time there was no phone call, no warning, and no clever remark to signal that she was in control of the situation. As concern grew among those closest to her, another story was unfolding elsewhere. Sonny found himself facing a decision that could alter the balance of power in Port Charles. Information had surfaced that threatened to expose secrets many people preferred to keep buried. The evidence was powerful, and if it reached the wrong hands, it could trigger consequences no one could predict. For Sonny, the situation was about more than protecting himself. The evidence connected several individuals whose futures could be changed forever if the truth became public. Every option carried risk. Every move had a price. Meanwhile, Obrecht awakened in an unfamiliar location. The room was quiet, isolated, and carefully secured. Whoever had arranged her disappearance clearly wanted her cut off from the outside world. Despite the circumstances, Obrecht refused to panic. She carefully observed every detail around her: a locked door, a small window, the sound of footsteps somewhere in the distance. She knew that survival often depended on patience and observation. Back in town, questions continued to mount. Friends noticed her absence and began comparing notes. What initially appeared to be a simple misunderstanding soon developed into something much more troubling. The timeline didn't make sense, witness accounts conflicted, and the deeper people looked, the more the situation became mysterious. At the same time, Sonny was dealing with pressure from multiple directions. Trusted allies urged caution. Others encouraged immediate action. The evidence represented both a threat and an opportunity. If handled carefully, it could neutralize a powerful opponent. If handled poorly, it could ignite a conflict that would spread far beyond its original target. As night fell, Sonny reached a conclusion. He could no longer afford uncertainty. The documents, files, and records that had caused so much concern needed to disappear. The decision wasn't easy. Destroying evidence meant eliminating leverage. It meant closing doors that might never reopen. But from Sonny's perspective, leaving those materials intact created an even greater danger. Alone with his thoughts, he prepared to act. Elsewhere, Obrecht continued searching for clues about her situation. The longer she remained isolated, the more determined she became to uncover the truth. Someone had invested significant effort into keeping her hidden. The question was why? Was she being silenced, protected, or used as part of a larger strategy? Every possibility seemed more complicated than the last. Back in Port Charles, several residents began connecting unexpected dots. Conversations that once seemed insignificant suddenly took on new meaning. One individual remembered seeing a suspicious vehicle. Another recalled overhearing a tense argument. A third noticed unusual activity involving people who normally avoided attention. Individually, none of these details proved anything. Together, they painted a troubling picture. As pressure intensified, Sonny carried out his plan. The sensitive materials that had generated so much anxiety were finally gone. In his mind, the threat had been eliminated. Yet, even as the evidence disappeared, a new concern emerged. What if copies existed? What if someone else had already seen the information? What if destroying the originals accomplished nothing? The possibility lingered in the back of his mind. For every action,
there is a reaction.
And in Port Charles, reactions rarely arrive quietly. Meanwhile, Obrecht made a discovery that changed everything. A brief conversation overheard through a partially open doorway revealed that her situation was connected to events unfolding elsewhere in town. Suddenly, pieces started falling into place. Her disappearance was not an isolated incident. It was part of something larger, something carefully planned, something designed to influence decisions being made by people who believed they were acting independently. The realization brought clarity, but it also brought danger. Knowing too much can be just as risky as knowing too little. As days passed, tensions escalated across multiple fronts. Relationships were tested, alliances shifted, long-standing rivalries resurfaced. Nobody knew whom to trust. Every conversation seemed to contain hidden motives. Every promise carried uncertainty. The search for answers intensified. Friends refused to give up hope. Enemies pursued their own agendas. And those standing in the middle struggled to determine which side offered the greatest chance of survival. For Sonny, the destruction of the evidence should have provided relief. Instead, it created new questions. The more he reflected on recent events, the more convinced he became that someone was manipulating the situation from behind the scenes. The apparent victory felt incomplete, almost as if an invisible hand had guided events toward a specific outcome. That suspicion refused to fade. As the mystery deepened, Obrecht focused on finding a way out. She understood that waiting for rescue might not be enough. If she wanted answers, she would need to take control of her own fate. Her determination grew stronger with each passing moment. No matter who was responsible, no matter how complicated the scheme, no matter how powerful the people involved, she intended to uncover the truth. And when that truth finally emerged, the impact would be felt throughout Port Charles. Secrets rarely stay hidden forever. Evidence can disappear. Stories can be rewritten. People can attempt to control the narrative. But eventually, the truth finds a way to surface. And when it does, everyone involved must face the consequences. The stage is now set for revelations, confrontations, and unexpected alliances. Questions remain unanswered, motives remain unclear, and the future remains uncertain. One thing, however, seems increasingly obvious. The events surrounding Obrecht's disappearance and Sonny's controversial decision are only the beginning of a much larger story. A story that could reshape lives, challenge loyalties, and leave Port Charles forever changed. If you enjoyed this dramatic, fan-inspired story, be sure to share your thoughts, discuss your predictions, and stay tuned for more twists, surprises, and emotional moments ahead.